All right, welcome everybody. I'm going to say this again. Welcome to the third of four sessions on women in global business. So I am going to, this morning we're going to be focusing on digital marketing and how that impacts your ability to attract and sell to international customers. And we are fortunate to have Mr. James Bledsoe of the U.S. Commercial Service joining us today. James works with companies to help them optimize their digital presence for international sales. But before we get to James, I am going to turn this over to Lisa White to introduce the U.S. Commercial Service.
Thank you so much for the introduction, Susan. So for those who weren't with us on the first two sessions, I'm Lisa White, and I'm a commercial officer at the U.S. Commercial Service Seattle office, which provides services across the state of Washington. The U.S. Commercial Service is the International Trade Administration's export arm, which is a part of the U.S. Department of Commerce. And we are delighted to be co-hosting this series today with the WMarketplace. Our missions are really aligned, and we're proud to work together, not just on this series, but beyond, to support women who are in and women who aspire to be in global business. For today's agenda, I'll be sharing a quick overview of the U.S. Commercial Service, and then I'll turn things over to Susan, who will be introducing digital marketing, and then we'll move into international digital marketing strategies and hear from a successful small business before we go into open Q&A. Throughout this presentation, as Susan said, we do invite you to type your comments into the chat and to type your questions for the presenters into the Q&A. So first, why are we here today? Research shows that companies who export grow faster, employ more staff, withstand fluctuating sales cycles more successfully, and stay in business longer. The world is full of potential customers, and we want to help you reach them. Our agency's mission is to grow U.S. exports to increase U.S. jobs. And our federal agency is truly global. Not only do we have 100 offices across the United States, we actually work in more than 70 countries with staff based out of U.S. embassies and consulates all around the world. We work to support businesses, so we're really action-oriented because we need to help you make international business deals. We accomplish this by offering a variety of services. First, we offer one-on-one export counseling. We can help you to identify the next international market opportunity for your products or services. We also have access to powerful market research databases, and as I said, we employ people all around the world who can provide you with the newest market intelligence to help you determine which markets to pursue. We also offer business matchmaking. We can set you up with businesses one-on-one to meet with potential buyers and distributors depending on which markets you're focusing on. And in certain circumstances, through commercial diplomacy, we can leverage our authority as the US government to advocate for your business interests to help you to overcome a trade barrier. Over the course of the past 2 years, many of us have transitioned to working from home. Although we may be working remotely, I wanted to highlight that we have fully adapted our international services to offer US businesses the full scope of all of our services. Virtual services include on-demand market research, virtual matchmaking services, vetting services for potential buyers, innovative online programs, and even a custom website analysis services where we help you to determine if your website is attracting international customers. And I'm excited to say that we'll be deep diving into that special service today later in the presentation. In the meantime, I do invite you to learn more about any of our virtual services at trade.gov/virtual-services. This is our contact information for Washington State. As you can see here, each of us supports different industry sectors. I do know that we have people from all around the United States on the call with us today. So if you're not in Washington State, please do use the link on this slide to connect with your local office. And I will be sharing this entire slide deck with everyone on the presentation today after the presentation, along with the recording link, so you won't miss anything here. So at this point, I would like to turn it back over to our wonderful partner, Susan Gates, the co-founder and CMO of the WMarketplace.
Great, thank you, Lisa. So yes, I'm back. I'm going to take just a couple of minutes to introduce the WMarketplace, and then I'm going to move into a topic that always sends just a shiver of excitement through any room, which is search engine optimization. So get ready to be super thrilled by that topic. But first, I want to just spend a couple of minutes again introducing the WMarketplace. We are a new company. We started as a result of the pandemic in the spring of 2020. After seeing the disproportionate impact of the pandemic on women, combined with the increase in online shopping and the desire for shoppers to have alternative places to shop that also align with their values. Next slide. Our answer to this is the WMarketplace. It's an e-commerce marketplace for consumers looking for a place to shop from women entrepreneurs. And it's a new and supportive platform for women-owned businesses to grow and sell. As of today, we've had over 500 women-owned businesses join us with over 4,000 products and services. Next slide. Here's just a little glimpse of our community as it stands today. We have intentionally recruited sellers that represent the landscape of businesses across the US. We provide sellers the opportunity to identify with one or more community, which also allows shoppers to support those communities that they resonate with. As you can see, we have a really diverse group of sellers, which we're really proud of, and is also great business. Next slide, please. So why are we working with the U.S. Commercial Service? Well, we see that as core to the mission of who we are as a company. We know that exporting is one way that women's businesses can grow and thrive, even if you're a small business, and you're going to hear an example of that later today, which is really exciting. This is an option for small businesses as long as you have the information that you need. And it's also core to our mission to provide practical and useful information for women entrepreneurs and to reveal all of the resources to help them grow, like the U.S. Commercial Service. And third, there are not a lot of examples of large, successful women-owned businesses. And we want to provide some inspiration to entrepreneurs who, like us at the WMarketplace, have visions of being a big company. Expanding your vision outside of the US is another way to get there. Next slide. So just an invitation from me to you this morning. If you are a women-owned business and you are looking for a new channel to sell through, either as a product or as a service provider, we invite you to check out the WMarketplace. And if you're also just looking for a great new place to shop, please check us out as well. These are images of all the women who are selling on the WMarketplace today. You'll see that we have some very young entrepreneurs, which is something that we're really excited about as well. So we are really looking to represent women who are at all stages of their entrepreneurial journey, from Ava, who you can see with her little puppy at the bottom there. She's 14, she's an entrepreneur, all the way up. I think our oldest entrepreneur is a woman who just started selling online in her 70s. So we're a place for women entrepreneurs at all stages of their journey. Next slide, please. So that's me. If you would like to have some more information about the WMarketplace, please feel free to reach out to me. My email is there below. And now I am going to jump in and talk a little bit about digital marketing, which is obviously a huge topic. And I'm going to spend just a few minutes because I'm really going to be talking about just some of the basics here, because I know we need to get to the international piece quickly. So this is a topic that everybody needs to pay attention to. Large companies, small companies, especially those companies I think who may have started a while ago and maybe haven't been paying attention to some of these key aspects of marketing. So I'm going to talk about search engine optimization. Because if you want customers to find you in the US or globally, you need to show up on search engines. So I'm going to go through just a few basics of the SEO, focusing on organic SEO. Aspects of your website that you need to pay attention to rather than on improving search results through paid advertisements, which is a whole other huge topic that we probably don't have time to get to this morning. So let's get started by talking about keywords. Next slide, Lisa, please. Okay, so I'm just going to go through quickly a few slides that just talk about some of these basics that you need to focus on. I know some folks are paying attention to this every day, but I myself have an example of some of the things that we weren't paying attention to, and that through putting together this little presentation reminded me to go back and do some refreshing. So I'm sure everybody could, need to just get a little refresher on this. Okay, so top tips for SEO. Number one, research your keywords. Put yourself in the place of your customer. What are the words that they are going to use in order to find your business? I showed you how search engines like Google can show you a related search. So I just typed in women-owned marketplace, And all of the keywords that fall below are other suggestions for how people search for this type of these types of keywords. So that's just a great way to get started with what are some of the keywords that people are using. Another great tip is to go onto your competitors' websites and what are the keywords or phrases that you're seeing they are repeating over and over again. So this is a shortcut that you can use to start building that list of keywords that you need to be paying attention to. There are worlds of analytic tools out there as well to do that. But if you're not a company with a huge budget, you can just start digging in and doing some of this stuff yourself. And again, I want to remind you to think about who your ideal customer is and how they will be searching for your products or services. People like to put together things like customer personas. They like to do like 5 customer personas and think about all of those different ways from maybe you have a younger persona who might search using different keywords than an older customer. So thinking about who those people are and how they're going to search for your product or service, and starting to build your database of keywords. Next slide, Lisa. Okay, once you have generated that list of keywords, then you need to start thinking about what are your top keywords and incorporating those keywords in various places on your website. So for us, and this was one of my things that I figured out that we had not been paying attention to, you can see our title tag there. This is how we show up on a Google search result when I just put in our name, the WMarketplace. So I did not have our keywords in our title tag. So if you go back and search for us now, you will see those have now been incorporated because I said, oh, I need to go back and fix this. So make sure that your keywords are part of your title tag. And then make sure that your meta description also is up to date and is also using keywords. I also spent a little bit of time updating my meta description to make sure that our keywords were incorporated in that. So these are 2 key areas where you need to focus on including your keywords. So you also want to use your keywords in all of your content and all of your blog posts. But one of my top tips is, and you'll see this when you search for products and services in places, you will see that like a title of a product coming up on a marketplace, it'll have like 13 keywords stuffed into a title that don't make sense and are very repetitive and strange. Search engines will actually penalize you for keyword stuffing. So be sure to be paying attention to it's incorporated into your language naturally and in a way that would make sense to a user. So be very careful around that. Start with your homepage. That's the first place that search engines are going to crawl and look at your information. Start with that homepage and then try to incorporate your keywords 5 to 7 times per page. But again, doing it as naturally as possible and avoiding that keyword stuffing. Next slide. So the next tip for your search engine optimization is using links into and out of your website. So using blog posts are a great area for this. As you're typing in, you're creating a blog, you can have links out, but you want to be careful with that because you want to keep people on your website, obviously. So using internal links, so linking to other pages within your website are something that search engines are looking at. Backlinks are huge. So a backlink is when another organization is linking into your website. And there are whole strategies that you can pay for and services that you can pay for that will help you with this. But if you don't have a big budget, this is where your relationship development comes in. Who are you partnering with? Who can you join forces with so that you can be linking back and forth to each other's sites? This is going to also help give your website credibility and have search engines say, hey, this is a good site to reveal on our top pages. So the other thing with those links is make sure that your anchor text is real text. It's not just saying click here, but you actually want to include text that describes where they're going to. So here is a blog post that we actually just posted, I think on Monday. for some of our new products and that we have on the site around spring break. So we included keywords in our URL, so women-owned beach essentials. And then we also included an inbound link. This is a link to the swimsuit seller, Cedar and Sand. So that's a link actually to her storefront on the W Marketplace. So I'm feeling very proud that we actually incorporated some of these key SEO strategies within this blog post. So blogging, again, gives you an opportunity to do a couple of things that improve your SEO. So it gives you an opportunity to establish credibility, establish expertise around your product or service. It gives you an opportunity to incorporate your keywords in a very natural way. It allows you to include inbound and backlinks. And again, make sure you're using your keywords in your URL. And then the last thing I'm going to say about SEO is that it's an ongoing project. You don't manage your SEO one time and have it be done. It's something that requires constant supervision, constant care and feeding. It's really important. It's tedious. You could hire whole entire services to help you manage it, but it's incredibly important. As you saw from my own example, like there were parts that we were just kind of, yeah, I'll get to that. And I'm really glad that I got to that because I think that that will help our SEO as well. So again, keep working on it. It's an ongoing project. It's never done. Be patient, hang in there. And your results tend to take a little while. Working on all of these organic SEO, you don't immediately see a jump to the first page of Google results. It's something that takes a little while for search engines to catch up with you. You really want to look at it as a month's project rather than days or weeks. So again, be patient, hang in there, and good luck with the stunningly fun process of working on your search engine optimization. And I think that's it for me. Lisa, I think that's my last slide. And then we are ready to turn it over to James. Thank you.
Thank you, Susan. Let me try to share for my presentation because I have an animation in mind, but fantastic on all points on SEO. And in fact, a lot of what we echo here at the Commercial Service when counseling our clients. So this is great to hear. My name's James Bledsoe. I'm with the U.S. Commercial Service. I'm a colleague to Lisa White and Diane and Thomas and Alexandra. All of the trade specialists at the local office there are my colleague, and I work closely with them. And so if you're interested in any of this that we're talking about here, I work through my colleagues. So as we progress here, SEO is very important and actually something I'll be covering here in a different light as part of your digital strategy. As a matter of fact, it's actually the cornerstone of your digital strategy, we'll come to find out. But it's important to get a digital strategy set up for your small business in order to make sure that you can track accurately your spend going in and your ROI coming out. So today I'll be covering business to business and business to consumer, e-commerce, just broad strokes going over some data here to help us understand what's going on and how we at the Commercial Service approach e-commerce. Then I'll go over the 5 steps of the digital strategy, some very good information here. We'll also cover the website globalization review gap analysis, a service that focuses on search engine optimization, and follow up with some free online resources to help you get your digital strategy started today. So here we see the e-commerce sales channel. This is how we view e-commerce. Many different folks will view it differently depending upon how they are approaching it. It could be simply a sale. It could be a storefront on a marketplace such as the W Marketplace or Amazon. It could be a lot, but in order for us to consult businesses in a logical, step-by-step fashion, we have to put it into this context, and it being e-commerce. Here we see, and I'm sorry, this bracket here is a little bit too long, the business to consumer here. And I didn't notice this. We just redid our PowerPoint here, so I didn't notice this error. B2C right here is actually enterprise, retail business, and the consumer. So please disregard this part right here. This is what you think of when you think of shopping online for consumer goods, shopping on the WMarketplace, shopping on Amazon, shopping on rei.com. This is B2C right here. But what's often overlooked is the upstream of that. Where is the WMarketplace acquiring these businesses? They're finding them online through search. Where's REI finding these products, presumably online? Where are those manufacturers of those products finding those resources, those raw materials? Who's creating the blister pack packaging? Who is out there doing the labeling work? That's also included in this in a more abstract sense of services. So there's a whole upstream that goes to building the B2C consumer experience here. That is the business to business end of things when we look at e-commerce data. E-commerce is also growing. If you've been living under a rock, you probably don't know this, but e-commerce and buying stuff online is pretty much the way things are heading and have been heading for the last 10 years, accelerated by COVID. By 2024, all projections pre-COVID are going to be exceeded by that boost in online shopping that the lockdown restrictions provided. So e-commerce, business to business, business to consumer, it's still growing. It's projected to grow. There is no dip in sight. What does this actually look like? Well, this is actually what it looks like by sales growth here year over year. And we can see the actual jump that the COVID pandemic did in the growth rate here, jumping from 13 to 18% and then leveling out here to a more modest 1% growth rate, or just over 1% growth rate. We got 5% here in just 1 year alone, with a continued steady growth. So what does that break down to by products and sector here? Well, it's mostly toys, fashion, and personal care, with also furniture and appliances on there for consumer goods. And I can attest, as an avid online shopper myself, I buy everything, including dirt, online. So if you're not sure if your product will sell online, yes, it will. If you're not sure if your service will sell online, yes, if it will sell, there's somebody online looking for it. Speaking of people looking for your products and services, what do the most immediate markets for e-commerce look like? Well, it's fairly similar across the board here, with fashion and electronics and media pretty much leading the desirable products for Mexico, US, and Canada here, the USMCA markets. And again, through 2025, a good steady growth. B2B e-commerce now, getting into the business side. We don't get too in-depth into B2B, aside from data, statistics, and facts, for the simple reason that B2B, business to business, if you're ever curious about what's going to happen in business to business, look to business to consumer, B2C. B2C is what wags the tail of B2B, in that those B2C consumers who get used to shopping on Amazon, the great consumer experience of the WMarketplace, eBay, what have you, when they go to work and have to purchase things for work, they expect that same experience in whatever websites they're purchasing from work. And so that's how it follows with the trends. And as you can see, B2B for the next several years is forecast to grow. Again, no end in sight to this growth here. So how do you capitalize on all of this growth out there? It's not an easy task, as Susan has alluded to. There's a lot to it. There's a lot you need to take into account, including, most importantly, search engine optimization. So getting into that detail, your first step, you must take a step back and define your digital objectives. Why does your website exist? What are you trying to do? Are you trying to influence and inform and lead towards a sale, perhaps more in the B2B range? Or are you actually selling a product directly off your website in the B2C range? And then how are you going to do this? What's your key demographic? What's your working capital? Do you have working capital? Do you have an estimate on your return on investment? These things need to be thought through, and these questions need to be asked. And it's best to work with a business counselor to get through all of these questions yourself. Once you understand what it is you want to do online, sell a product, inform, lead, sell towards a service or further products, you then need to do what Susan focused on, and that is check your website design and do search engine optimization for a foreign audience. Search engine optimization by default for a US audience is actually a good proxy for now for an international audience. And the main reason behind that is Google being the primary search engine worldwide. So making sure that you are search engine optimized and then having someone look through your website with an eye to the international audience is essential to make sure that you have the proper window dressing, if you will, for your website to attract those international consumers, in addition to the search engine optimization, making it so you can be found by those international consumers. Without the search engine optimization, you don't show up in that search and don't contend for that sale. Once you do search engine optimization, you look at the issues that are there, the items that need to be added, as Susan mentioned, meta titles, page descriptions. You need to actually address those issues. You need to have a service provider, a professional, qualified person to actually improve and remedy those areas. Now, the majority of issues that businesses face are relatively easily fixable on your own, especially if you do your own website content. A lot of it is just filling out back-end summary fields that you quite easily could have mistaken for internal notes and not relevant for search. And so it's simply addressing that. But then it's also going out and looking after service providers for real issues, 404 errors, any additions for shopping cart capabilities, you name it, you're going to want to get professional service providers. And for that, we have a resource I'll share later called the eCommerce Business Service Provider Directory. So in step one of your digital strategy, you're defining your objectives and deciding what you want to do with your website. In step two, you're doing search engine optimization and making sure that an international audience can find your website and navigate it and find it appealing. In step three, you're fixing those issues that you know now exist and those areas that are lacking, and you address them. In step four, this is where a lot of work also continues on outside of search engine optimization. And this is where you'll be working closely with, for instance, Lisa White at the US Export Assistance Center there in CS Seattle, to decide based on your website visitor statistics and market research, which e-commerce sales channels you're going to sell through. And sales channels, by the way, are simply your website, social media, marketplaces like the W Marketplace and in-country distributors that have already search engine optimized locally in-country websites that you can then piggyback off of by selling through and linking to. We also have a gold key service, a matchmaking service that helps facilitate that. So you can ask Lisa White about that after this. The last step here that we get our clients to understand with a digital strategy, but certainly not the least step and certainly not the last one in order that should be done, is making sure that you're establishing some sort of key performance indicator for all this work so you know whether or not it's yielding ROI from all the effort and money, capital you are dumping into it, because it will be expensive. It does get a little expensive. And so you'll want to be looking at your website analytics, the simple overview dashboard of Google Analytics, perhaps a free analytics program. Let you know who's coming in and going out of the figurative storefront of your website. And if you track that information and cross that with the sales that you attribute to online, that allows you to come up with a basic conversion rate and determine how much of your overall sales your website is driving for online. So it's very important to establish these KPIs early on. And it's very important to look at your website and its analytics early on to understand what's going on and where the growth or lack of growth is and why, to be able to diagnose it with these key performance indicators. Now, with all of this in consideration, the 5 steps of a digital strategy, being able to be found online by international audiences is something that is often not really considered by a lot of clients unless directly asked and focused on as a topic. Can your website, whatever product you're selling right now, if I'm in Beijing, China, and I type in whatever keywords I type into the search for your product, and you show up in search or should show up in search, are you? Does your website perform well enough? Do search bots find it an attractive resource to place in the search results? Well, understanding how a search engine works really helps in placing into context why you're doing search engine optimization for your business to earn money. So I've got this little animation that I love to show to everybody for 2 reasons. One, I created it, and 2, for that very last explanation there, that it helps hit home why we're doing this. So on the World Wide Web here, we have search engines: Google, Yahoo, Ask, MSN, Bing, Yandex in Russia, Naver in South Korea, Baidu in China. They're all essentially the same. They're all websites that have mathematical algorithms, web crawlers, search bots, something designed by a person like me, designed to go out and index, find information, crawl through websites every day and give a short summary of everything on that web page for the purpose of the search results. So when you're doing search engine optimization, you're doing nothing more than making sure that this web crawler, this mathematical algorithm created by a human to go out and find information, can actually do its job well, and that all the information that should be on your web page is there for this web crawler to find. Now, obviously, it gets a little bit more complicated than that with things such as screen formatting size and things such as images. Now, this may not be readily apparent to everybody out there, but this mathematical algorithm, it doesn't see what this is. This is an image, a packet, a file of information to this web crawler. And the only way it knows what this is with an image alt text, a tag. When I uploaded it to our image library for our website, I filled in that it was a Western Douglas fir softwood tree used in the building industry because my lumber mill website wants search bots to see that. And so it's very important to pay attention to very finite little details in what you're telling these web crawlers about your website, and making sure that this information here for this tree isn't blank on the back end. So how do you do that? Well, before I get ahead of there, you want to make sure that your website is first internationalized. You may be familiar with localization, and that is primarily what is being promoted out there by a lot of service providers, simply because they do localization. That is their bread and butter. But what a lot of businesses need to do is stop and take a step back and make sure that their website is operating properly and can be found regardless of bandwidth internationally, and regardless of where they're focusing, can be found easily, and that the website facilitates not only international transaction, is easily to navigate and pleasing to navigate, but also facilitates a transaction, helps you make a purchase. After you look at your website analytics and are understanding where you're getting your visitors from, in conjunction with market research from the local US Export Assistance Center, you can then focus on regionalizing your website and then narrowing down that scope to ultimately localizing your website and translating in country, which is very expensive. Hence why you want to start with internationalization first. It's not that I want to stop people from having fun and going straight into the market. It's just that each localization, true localization that you do, you're going to be looking at $50,000 plus or minus each market. So that adds up. You want to make sure that that is a smart decision before you go spending that kind of money. So the kind of issues that we can help with at the U.S. Commercial Service that were identified out there by a business study that I identified, this actually supported our counseling and our digital strategy counseling and our gap analysis service, and that it was identified that a lack of a business digital strategy and the experience and know-how to actually create one was the #1 business issue out there. And this still stands true even today after I found that report originally back in 2017, way back when, back in time, man. But it's very reinforcing of this sound principle that understanding what you're doing, why you're doing it, and then being able to understand that that is something that you want to keep doing is something that basically needs to be done by businesses. It's a sound business practice. Also, lack of knowledge of e-commerce business service providers. Knowing that there are professionals out there to give professional business results rather than your nephew or niece or neighbor who seems young enough to work on websites. Since you are a serious business, get a serious service provider to give you serious results. And so that was definitely reinforcing for our e-commerce business service provider directory that we have, and I'll also show that later, as a referral resource of service providers, US-based service providers that can actually fill these gaps, that can address these issues identified on your website. Other issues identified out there that we've been working on for the last 40 plus years as an organization, that is simply something that we do, is help identifying non-tariff barriers, such as customs issues, shipping and logistics issues, helping you find service providers through the BSP, helping you understand relationships, distributors, warehousing. That's something we can all help with. And then also with the online payment solutions, just international payments in general, that's something that we've been counseling on for decades. And now that it's transferred into the online space, we essentially have the same experience and background in now employing these service providers as a referral resource for the actual plugin of the payment. So the gap analysis service, you heard me mention, for search engine optimization, is something that we developed a couple of years ago. It's a very new service and has been growing steadily. I've done over 300 of these services now for small and medium-sized businesses that have been in business exporting for 10 years or more. And the follow-on resource for it, the e-commerce business service provider directory, is the follow-on resource to help you fix the issues that we identify in the gap analysis. This, in conjunction with any available state-provided STEP grant resources, provides a perfect trifecta of identifying the issues, providing funds to conceivably fix these issues, and then providing the e-commerce business service provider ecosystem to fix the issues identified with the report. So what are the details on this gap analysis? Well, it's an internationalization exercise as well as a search engine optimization exercise. We aren't fixing anything. We're identifying issues, areas, and blank spots that are currently existing on your website. With this gap analysis, we'll take 2 website crawlers as well as the trade specialist looking at your website and provide recommendations and feedback, as well as a follow-up action plan to make sure that you see some sort of ROI as you continue to work with us as a commercial service client selling overseas online. Resources. So if there's one thing we do well in addition to counseling, it is resources. So online on trade.gov, we have a ton of resources available for you to follow up after this webinar on your own and learn at your own leisure. First of which is the e-commerce frontline library here. It is a short list of articles authored by our international trade specialists, where you can read on various topics here. And again, you can find it at trade.gov/e-commerce, and then simply look for the e-commerce frontline library. Another resource, or rather resources that we have, is at trade.gov/e-commerce, and that is the access to market research. We have information on the state STEP grant administered through the Small Business Administration and Small Business Development Centers around the US, as well as rural assistance and digital policy assistance. This is a new resource out there. A lot of our clients working with us as we connect with our colleagues overseas at US Embassy Posts, the issue of local digital policy regulation comes up. What is allowed, what isn't allowed, how do we find that out? This right here, this resource through Global Trade Alert, a nonprofit, will provide you with that information. So particularly with regards to digital marketing, as you start advertising and keeping client information, or decide to do direct marketing in country, this will tell you what you can and can't do by way of them tracking all of that information worldwide. There's also a market diversification tool for those of you with tangible products. You simply need your harmonized schedule number, your HS number. If you don't know what your harmonized schedule number is, or your HS number is, simply contact our local US Export Assistance Center, our trade specialists, and they can help you identify that and help you get what's called a commodity jurisdiction, I believe, where they tell you exactly what that HS number is, in which then you can use this market diversification tool to find out other markets where your products are selling worldwide. I'd also like to highlight before wrapping up here, we have other resources, wide-ranging resources available at the U.S. Commercial Service here. In addition to the Global Diversity Export Initiative, where we focus not only on those underserved communities out there that are an administration priority, but we also focus on rural exports and rural businesses as well. So if you consider yourself a rural business, you fall into that category and are applicable to that special assistance. We also have climate and clean tech solutions. So if you're involved in that space, that is a very big industry with a lot of activity in our trade specialist and something good to get into, as well as the Women's Global Trade Empowerment initiative, which this webinar is a part of. Thank you for your time. I'm now going to pass the baton on to Janet with the House of Trade, located in Irvine, California.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much, James, for that. That was so informative. My goodness, I need to hit rewind and watch the recording in a bit. So hi, ladies. I am the founder of House of Trade, and I actually also am a seller on the marketplace, the Women's Marketplace platform. So a little bit about my business. Next slide. House of Trade specializes, and it was really born out of a desire to promote and create the artisan trade. I worked at a nonprofit the last 4.5 years. I really saw the impact that fast fashion has had not only on our environment, but on also local artisans and the handmade work that is becoming more and more rare. So our goal was really to be able to promote artisan trade by partnering with them, working with local communities and smaller factories that are in communities that have, that need an economic empowerment. And so through our partnership with artisans, we've been able to develop plastic-free goods, which has been one of our biggest commitments. Our specialty items are hats, handmade hats, and we call it slow crafted hats. They have zero plastics, especially because a lot of these items go on our body. Of course, we want things to be breathable. Through the goods we offer, cultural art is protected, and also our mission is to protect the environment as well and utilize natural resources. Next slide. So our digital plan has been twofold. We actually got started in March of 2021. So in reality, we've been in business for a year, and it's been one quite exciting year. And I was mentioning earlier to the ladies that as all the small business owners know, it feels like I have 10 children just like strapped to my hip daily. But that being said, those are the fun parts. Our digital plan, as I mentioned, is twofold. What we've done right, we've done a lot, but what we've done right and which has really, really paid off, so to speak, are these two very things. Joining digital marketplaces. The Women's Marketplace is one great example of it. They have already done a lot of the SEO optimization that was discussed earlier. So you can lean on the heels of that information, to be able to build on that. Not to mention they have these budgets, which is incredibly important. It's incredibly valuable to us, especially if you're just getting started, that you lean in on all of the resources that they have. So what we've done right is to partner with a lot of digital marketplaces that have already built and establish a consumer base that we can lean in on and expand from there. The second thing is our social media presence. I actually didn't embrace social media sooner, but the last 6 months we've really been expanding and really expanding our reach as much as possible. Social influence, as you all know, is governing everything. And it's important for businesses to maintain a digital social presence. Really, the way that people are seeing it now is that it's social proof. Most of us, before we go to dinner or anywhere else, we Yelp things or we Google them per se. In the retail and fashion world, what they're doing is going on social media, whether it's Facebook or Instagram, and they're really digging what are people saying about it? Do they love it? Is there a community around it? I think especially as women, the first thing we do is that we look to join a community of people. What types of events is this business, a part of? What types of cause and mission, especially lately, that's incredibly important. Using Reels for us the last couple of 2-3 months has been incredibly, fruitful. And collaborations. This is key, and I wish I'd known this sooner, ladies. For those of you that have a brand, ensure that you align your brand with influencers that have your values. Otherwise, they will not be able to appreciate your product. They won't be able to speak, very enthusiastically about it, other than maybe looking pretty in it. And to us, that wasn't enough, to be frank. We wanted someone who is, has a green initiative, a sustainability initiative in their, you know, I would say in their brand, incorporate into their brand. Next slide. So more about us, if you guys would like to know anything more, feel free to reach out to us. Our website is here, email, Instagram. I'd like to also say that in terms of international export, it's been incredibly important for us to expand that. The last year, for me personally, even though we were doing an insane amount of events and, you know, really leaning into SEO and all of that, a very, very important part for me was to be able to scale my time. I didn't want to spend more time doing the little things. So I wanted to be working not in the business, but on the business. And so part of that was really reaching our international audience. And it has allowed me to have more free time in the last couple of 2 months, I would say 2-3 months. So exports is a huge, huge part of the business. And I definitely, you know, I'd love to, if any of you want to chat, feel free to reach out via Instagram, and again, lean in on the resources that, you know, these basically that we discussed today, lean in on them and expand on them. Thank you so much.
Great. Thank you so much, Janet, for that wonderful presentation. It's great to hear how exporting is helping you as a small business grow. So yeah, at this point, I just want to invite all of our speakers today, turn on your camera. And if you have any questions from the audience today, please feel free to put them in the Q&A box if you have any questions for any of our speakers. And in the absence of any specific questions, I'd love to ask our speakers today if you have any specific parting pieces of advice that you would recommend.
Sure. I would recommend definitely, as I mentioned, just leaning in on the export. One of the things I was sharing earlier was that as the business grew, I realized, okay, I'm going to get busier. And so I have to really start thinking, you know, about replacing myself. So doing everything in a way that replaces me where I'm not necessarily needed, especially for small business. I think a lot of the times we want to feel key. We want to feel like we're the only ones that can really have that vision and, you know, et cetera, and on it goes. But really, the goal is to replace ourselves eventually. And one of the ways that I've been able to do to save my time has been through export, because the wholesale business has allowed us, that we just dove into, has allowed us to expand a lot quicker. And not only has it allowed me the opportunity to free up a lot of my time, because we're connecting with other retailers that have already done the work of establishing customer bases, whether, you know, they have 10, 20, 30, 40,000, they've been in business 10 years. So for us to be a wholesale provider to them that can get a global product in their hands without actually having to travel to the country to make these connections to get it has been, you know, invaluable. And for me, I want to have children next year. And so doing events and, you know, really being at a retail brick and mortar location every week was not what I saw myself doing. And import process has been key, and being able to give me a lot of the freedom that I need to grow. And really also the best part is that you get to make money 24/7 because the orders are coming in on different, you know, in different time zones. So I may be asleep and an order has come in for a wholesale order has come in from Norway, for example, or Paris or London. And they don't have access, and they don't have geographically, they're not as close to our providers here in the US as we are. So not only are they willing to pay more money for our products, but they're also, you know, just eager to connect with us, find a sustainable product that's handmade, that is made by artisans here that are, you know, foreign to them on the other side of the world. So that's much more valuable. Sometimes we take for granted that we're so close to certain countries, and we forget about those international buyers that are really looking for a product like yours. So get in front of as many people as possible. And again, align yourself with digital marketplaces and lean in on these nonprofit resources.
Fantastic. Sorry, I had trouble finding my mute button. I was looking on the other side. I'm used to Teams. I'm sorry. Can't change things on me. I would say for small business out there, echoing everything Janet and Susan have said, I'd like to reinforce that it is doable for all businesses out there. You can do this. It just requires a little bit of planning. However, it's already been proven that it's doable. So we've got the process already down for business. There's waiting service providers, business counselors out there ready to help you with this. And there's also a lot of federal capital out there by way of grants and awards that, quite honestly, I think are going underused by the business community. And so really, in my mind, there's no reason at all to not get out there and try to sell your products overseas, especially if they're selling domestically here. Now I see in the chat, there's some questions on how to get started in general. I like to consider the commercial service a little bit more towards the graduate school of business as far as interactions go. For something more elementary like that, you'd be looking more towards a score counselor or SBDC to help you get started in that direction as a business. And then once you get started in that direction and are viable as a business, working with us can help grow those sales even more. So that's all I have to add here.
Yeah, thank you, James. And I echo what you said. And I also just wanted to just kind of reinforce what Janet was saying as well. And just to remind everybody, Janet started her business a year ago in the middle of a pandemic and already now has wholesale business internationally. And I think it's a testament to her business skills and her beautiful products, but it's also what it says is that it is doable and it is possible. And I just think that thank you, Janet, for jumping in and giving that example to everyone. I think it's a fantastic story. And, getting connected with the resources that are available to you, I think is just, the bot underscores each one of these webinars that we have had each week. I'm really excited for next week's, where we're actually going to be talking about the specific services that are available to you overseas as well. And I know Lisa is going to finish up by talking a little bit about that. But again, great resources available for you, and look at Janet as what is possible.
Thank you so much. And thank you so much for co-hosting this event with us today, Susan. And thank you so much again to James and Janet. What a great session. And thanks to our attendees for your time today. Please do join us for the 4th and final installment of Women in Global Business next Wednesday, Find International Customers. So we're going to help you figure out where you should concentrate your marketing efforts, and we'll help you grow your business globally. So thank you very much. Stay tuned for a copy of the presentation and the recording to be sent out after today's presentation. Thank you.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. I'm going to stop the recording now.